The Legend of Zelda began back on the Famicom Disk System in Japan in 1986 and then was brought to the Nintendo Entertainment System for the rest of the world in 1987. The story follows the character of Link as he sets out to rescue Princess Zelda, and so it would be mostly the same throughout the series with some exceptions, a bit like with the old Mario series. The game drops you into the world of Hyrule with no sword, no shield, well, basically no fudging idea what the smeg is going on, and leaves you to uncover the map, find weapons and items, locate and complete dungeons, etc, and find and save Zelda. For its time, it was revolutionary for not holding your hand and letting you explore at your own volition. Plus, the game is ducking hard, still today. I've never beaten it, so I mean that's some indication on how difficult it can be. We move on to Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link in 1988. Well, for us, it was 87 for Japan. The sequel took a different approach to gameplay with a combination of a top-down world map view, and then when combat, towns or dungeons are concerned, it moves to a side-scrolling action game. This one isn't as good, in my opinion, as the original, even though they have both aged in a lot of ways for the worse, as a lot of games do, but they both are such a huge part of gaming history and at least worth a playthrough. RPG elements were also introduced into Zelda 2, again pushing that envelope, utilising experience points, the only game in the Zelda series to actually use XP. 3 years later, one of the best Zeldas, and the one I personally started with, was A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo in 1991, bringing with it the original top-down view from the first game, great visuals and music, combined with great gameplay. Everything about A Link to the Past shines with passion from the developers. It's always a joy to return to it and play through it, with its many dungeons, items and characters oozing with charm. Two years later, and Zelda made its debut on the Game Boy with Link's Awakening, which has been remade for the Switch, but I'll talk more on the remake on the next part of this Zelda series, Retrospective. Link wakes up on an island after being out at sea on a dinghy, effectively, for reasons. He's tasked with collecting musical instruments to wake the windfish in order to escape. Now, I bought it in the mid-90s alongside the first Resident Evil from Toys R Us. I actually went into Toys R Us to buy Resident Evil 2, but I couldn't afford Resident Evil 2 with my birthday money. However, I could afford Resident Evil Director's Cut on PlayStation and Link's Awakening on the Game Boy. You could not buy those two now for the same price, of course, but it was still an amazing day to come home with such amazing games. Good times indeed. And now we skip to the Nintendo 64 and the penultimate Zelda, the Ocarina of Time, in 1998. What can I say about the first 3D Zelda game that hasn't already been said a million times over by millions of YouTubers and reviewers? When I first played it in 98, I instantly fell in love with it. It had the gameplay, the 3D world, the memorable music and epic dungeons. However, now, objectively, the game has aged. The camera is a bitch, but what Nintendo 64 game doesn't have a bitch of a camera? The open Hyrule field is, well, let's be honest, it's just barren and bland, and Link can handle like a bit of a spaz sometimes. However, nostalgia and everything this game did at the time was so epic, it will always be remembered fondly, and no, I am not saying it's a terrible game. I still think it is a fun game and definitely worth playing for anyone who hasn't picked it up. It's just certain aspects of the game has aged. We have to admit that to ourselves, because if you admit that everything is perfect, nothing will improve. And games have improved a lot, some for good and some for bad. 2 years later, in the merry old year of 2000, Majora's Mask graced the Nintendo, and I hated it with a burning passion, and still do. I hate it now. The game is Groundhog Day in game form, and is so finicky in that you have to keep replaying the day over and over, and you have a time limit before the moon crashes to the ground. I've never really played more than maybe 5 to 6 hours of it and just given up. And I tried back then on the N64, I've tried on the 3DS, and I've tried on the Virtual Console on the Switch, which is what this gameplay is captured from, and the game is wank. I cannot stand Majora's Mask. I know it has its fan base, and I know a lot of people out there really do like Majora's Mask, but I am so sorry, it is not for me, and I just can't. I just can't. I try, and I just can't be doing it with it. Well, that will do it for part 1. Thank you for watching, and part 2 will begin with the Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, all the way through to Breath of the Wild. Skipping a couple of the games as I don't own them. I will mention them, of course, but I won't have footage for them. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you there.